Thanks for tuning in to the Spread Your Wingspan podcast.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Jenny.
And we're your hosts, two friends who immediately bonded over our secret smut addictions. So join us as we journey together through our favorite romance and fantasy stories and discuss all things kinks, female pleasure, taboos, and more.
Make sure to check out the show notes for any spoiler alerts and content warnings. We're happy you're here. Let's get to today's pod.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Jenny.
I feel like I haven't greeted you on camera in a very long time.
It's been literal months.
Literal months. We inadvertently took a summer break.
We did. It was not intentional. There was like illnesses, injuries,
Travel.
house things, crazy, Burning Man.
Burning Man. Yes.
So
So forgive my gravelly post-playa-lung voice, folks.
or
Maybe
enjoy it.
it's just a little sexier than usual. Although my husband gets the really sexy gravelly voice, I feel like I just sound like an old hag.
No, disagree.
Oh, okay.
You know that episode of Friends where Phoebe gets her sexy voice from a cold?
Oh, vaguely,
And she's
maybe.
like, smelly cat.
Oh my God.
It's so good. It sounds like that. So
Excellent. I will take it.
yeah.
I will take it. So we've teased this book, I think, a couple of times
For a
on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
So I think I'll start with saying how I found the book because
Should give the title.
oh yeah, go for it.
Monsters, A Fan's Dilemma
I always like to skip the title.
by Claire Dederer.
Yes.
Yeah, please
Um,
go ahead.
Yes. So my friend Obi, hi Obi, recommended this book to me after he read it as somebody who is a huge fan of comedy and as a Black man, a fan of Bill Cosby when he was a kid, shared with me that he was really struggling with the dilemma. Like once you learn that an artist has done some really, really horrible things, can you still be a fan of their work? And in the story that he told me, you know, as a young kid listening to Bill Cosby's comedy albums really formed his love of comedy.
Mm.
And of course, the importance of seeing a Black family represented on TV in the Cosby Show was important to many people. So I was like, wow, when you put it in that context, like how individually important this artist was, and then collectively to Black children, Black families to see representation on TV in a positive way for kind of the first time, not fully the first time, but you know, I was like, wow, I need to read this book. Because for us, we've talked about J.K. Rowling. I think for me, Michael Jackson has been a big one.
Yeah.
You know, and now Neil Gaiman.
J.K.
There's-
Rowling will come up later
Yes.
today because I think she is a very pertinent example of this book wasn't written that long ago, but even then, things have changed still since this was written. And I
Yes.
think what's going on with J.K. Rowling now is new information that would maybe change a little bit of this book.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. So I just wanted to share the background. So I've actually read this book twice. And when I read it initially, I was like, Sarah, I actually think this would be a great thing for us to read on the podcast, take a diversion from, you know, our fun romantasy and talk about this because these things have actually come up on the podcast.
Yeah, I think if we're doing, media literacy is inherently a part of what we talk about here.
Yes.
Even though, again, we are on the much more fun side of that line, I think. But, you know, especially because the content of so many of the books we talk about is like, there's the content warnings, right? So then when we're talking about that, like in real life, by the makers of these things that we're consuming, like what does that do for us
Mhm.
as participants?
Yes.
As the audience, as Claire likes to frequently comment.
Yes.
I don't want to get too far ahead of things, but I do want to warn people that I did not enjoy reading this book.
Nope. And she was very vocal about it through the reading. And it took you a long time
Oh
to
my
get
God,
through it.
I was dragging my feet. 'cause
And I even gave you two times where I'm like, if you're really hating it, like we don't have to read this. And you're like, no, I'm going to do this.
I'm committed. I was English studenting it too hard. I was writing so many notes. Like I was taking notes like every other sentence because I had a very visceral reaction to a lot of what she was saying. And I was like, that's why it was taking me so long.
Yeah.
'Cause I couldn't just read it. I was like arguing back to her
Yeah.
for a long time. So yeah, be prepared for maybe some spicy takes from me today. I will try to keep it cordial.
No, but I think honesty is what we're here for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like we never want you to sugarcoat things. I
Yeah.
never want you to sugarcoat
And
things.
absolutely, like my projections, like my personal life is why I'm having such a visceral reaction. But spoiler alert, that's part of my issue with her argumentation. So,
Fair.
Shall I get to the summary?
Please do.
Okay. Claire Dederer has been a lifelong fan of Roman Polanski, and yet she struggles to make peace with her fandom and the truth of Polanski's monstrousness. She begins the difficult task of parsing how the audience should interact with the art of monstrous men. Her inquiry begins as a philosophical and ethical consideration, but she eventually realizes that emotional reaction cannot be ignored from the equation. She then begins to consider, fairly, what makes female artists monsters, and from this question turns her gaze upon herself. Is she a monster for dedicating time to her art instead of her children? Does her alcoholism qualify her as a monstrous artist? Not all questions are answered, and she ultimately decides that what we love has a place in our lives, no matter how stained the beloved work is made by the acts of its creator.
Fabulous summary as always.
Thank you. Struggled because I wrote the summary like way after the fact of reading it, and I was like, what was this book about?
No, but you nailed it.
Thank you. So themes, I think, are pretty obvious from the summary here. It's not a fictional work, so it's not like we have to delve to find the themes.
Right.
I think the main two are obviously monstrosity. What does that even mean? And then engagement versus consumption as an audience member. How do we in a capitalist society interact with art without, you can't really not include consumption.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, when you think of audience purely in terms of what it means to be an audience, you're just engaging.
Right. Yes. So talking about attention given versus money given.
Correct.
And both hand.
And how those differences are pretty important when you think about how the other person on the other side of the equation, the maker.
Yes.
So my reaction. The main issue I had with this book was in the first half, she's like talking to people, friends of hers, and asking about their relationship with monstrous artists. And constantly it's like, oh, that's an emotional reaction. That's not valid. And I'm like, I'm sitting there writing furious notes. I'm like, what are ethics and morals without emotions?
Right.
If we did not have an emotional reaction to incest, people being murdered, crime, theft, rape, like they wouldn't be crimes.
Right.
So what? I was like, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
I was like, it felt very, I'm play acting as the patriarchy in the patriarchal academia, which I was very immersed in. I have an MFA, I used to teach, is we don't include our emotions in this democratic like seminar we're having. Like, let's remove our emotions from this discussion. And like,
which is such a gaslit
yes,
response.
First of all, it's not possible.
Right.
Second of all, why?
Yeah.
Like, why are our emotional reactions not valid?
Who are you trying to serve by doing this?
This came up in the famous Lolita lecture where all of the women in class got very angry and all the men in class were like, you're not allowed to be. Right? And they were like, you can't discuss this work purely as English majors or whatever, as English MFAs, if you're not removing your emotions. Anyway, so I felt like she was really inhabiting the patriarchy for so much of this book. And yes, she was trying to examine the patriarchy, but she wasn't doing it from an outside position. She was doing it like from within it to me.
Okay.
It felt very like 10, 15 years ago feminism to me.
Yes. And I think that is something that I picked up on in the book that I think I don't want to get too far ahead because you have other points further on that I want to, give proper due to. But I do think like the way that I interpreted all of that, I think this is so interesting because, our backgrounds and our experiences really do inform how we interact with things. And so when I was reading your notes, I was like, oh, fascinating. So I think to me, it just became another, because she kept asking men, which I thought was interesting.
Yes.
She should have asked, some women their opinions. But to me, it was reinforcing that men will think of it differently because they're part of the patriarchy.
And they are the inherent assumed authority.
Right. So I think for me, the omission is, why didn't you talk to more women about this? Why were you always going to men who were going to call you emotional and shut you down?
Yeah, it was like bias confirmation.
Exactly. Rather than having a group of women in a room or a group of mothers in a room, which again, we'll get to, and examine it from that perspective outside of the patriarchy from a more feminist lens. And again, not even getting into the lack of intersectionality in all of this, which we can get to. But yeah, so for me, it was a weak way of reinforcing that the patriarchy is still alive and well. Because again, even when we talk about Roman Polanski, it was only 60 years ago that this happened. And so to me, I'm like, okay, things have changed, but also things haven't changed.
In the first paragraph, she says, yes, it was normal for people to sleep with teenagers back then. She already is qualifying the crime. And I'm like, hey, I don't think teenagers have ever been cool with being raped.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. but to me, the way that I look at it is not that she's normalizing it, but saying that if you can go back and list so many rock stars, the member of the Rolling Stones. I can't
Like
think of
that
his
Red
name.
Hot Chili Peppers guy who slept with a 14-year-old.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't think she was trying to normalize it. I think that what she was trying to show is it wasn't so long ago that society turned a blind eye to this, is how I looked at it. And I'm not saying that's right.
No, I agree. But I'm like, well, as I'm reading it, I'm like, there's a difference between again, can a 14-year-old consent to have sex with a 30-year-old rock star? No, but that's different. Dubious consent versus absence of consent with Roman Polanski raping a 13-year-old who did not in any way consent to that encounter.
100%.
So like, I'm like, you're already
playing into the narrative.
Yes. And you're already showing me your lack of objectivity here.
Yes.
So first paragraph, I was like, oof.
Oh man. Yeah.
And then the other thing that bothered me in terms of like acting from the point of the patriarchy is halfway through the book, she's like, I guess I have to ask about women monsters. Because she was anticipating white men reading this book and being like, she's only talking about men. Like, women artists also do bad things.
Yeah.
She's like, I guess I got to talk about it.
Yeah.
And she reaches so hard because structurally, systemically, women aren't monsters. So, yeah, individuals can be shitty. She certainly finds a few to talk about. But it's a really different book to me, a really different consideration.
Mm-hmm.
That's more about like, how do women make peace with their monstrousness in order to make art? That's a totally separate discussion than how do we as an audience interact with art made by men who are criminals?
Yes. And you even said, and I think you said when you were reading on the Reddits that, people were like, this could have easily been two separate books.
And they could have been like up of a piece. It could have been a duet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's start here. Let's examine this. Let's close this door. Let's now, because we talked about this, fuel another discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, honestly, that might have made it more impactful.
I think so.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like publishers, agents, the time of it all, like there wouldn't have been space to make it 2 books because already this is kind of a tough sell.
Yeah.
In certain respects, like do a lot of people want to read nonfiction about horrible people? Probably smallish market compared to like ACOTAR.
Yeah, fair. But her inquiry also starts because she said she was researching sociological papers on this topic and she found nothing.
Yeah.
And she was shocked that she couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
Any research, any studies, anything. Yeah. But I do, I also kind of want to say, like, people, as you and I have different perspectives because of our lived experience, like, I give her a little bit of leeway for coming from her lived experience. Like, there was also something that you said, there was a language thing that you were frustrated that she had used when it came to adoption. I can't remember now what it was.
She kept saying gave up for adoption.
And the
correct terminology is placed for adoption.
Right. Okay. So, and I remember saying to you, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm a dumb, ignorant person.
Oh.
I just had never encountered
I
this
learned
before.
it from watching Teen Mom.
There you go. So I think, to my point, maybe I'm giving her a little bit more leeway to just be herself.
Yeah.
Imperfectly, frustratingly. If we were at a dinner party with her and we could have this conversation, I'd be really curious to hear a little bit more.
I get the sense she would hear our criticisms.
Yeah.
I think what I said to you was my issue with the language and the things like that. I feel like there's a real lack of an outside editor. I'm sure there was an editor, but I'm actually more mad at the editor than the author here. Because it's the editor's job to say this is 2 books. It's the editor's job to say you're not really inhabiting what you think you're inhabiting here, or you're misusing. We should be looking at, is this the proper way to talk about adoption?
Right.
That's the editor's job.
And why is there a lack of intersectionality?
Correct.
And, I was thinking about it. I'm curious. Obviously, we won't know unless we find her and ask her. But my curiosity is, does she focus on mostly white men and then
mostly white women? Yeah.
Because she doesn't want to construct a narrative that women of color can be awful. Because there's already so much prejudice against them.
Yeah.
I have that curiosity. I don't know.
I mean, that would be definitely legitimate. But I think when you're writing a memoir, you then need to share those feelings.
Yeah. I'm a white woman.
Because she constantly, parenthetically interrupts herself. Oh, my God. I was like, just write it in its own sentence.
Yeah.
And like most of the time, it's like she's doing it as a tick to be like, I know I'm wrong about this, or I know I'm misspeaking, but here I go continuing to misspeak.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just edit your writing and don't misspeak in the first place. You're not.
Or just say you're a white woman. She is white, right?
Very much so.
Yeah. So or just say I'm a white woman with my lived experience, but I know there's greater lived experiences out there.
Yeah. Well, and she ends the book. The salvation of this book is the words of a Black woman, which can't be ignored, I think. The woman who is like, we end up about the Miles Davis. It ends with that Miles Davis.
Okay, thank you.
And a black woman who wrote an essay about
Thank
it. So
you.
she basically ends up co-opting a black woman's work
Oh,
to close out this
man.
book.
Yeah, it wasn't tracking.
Yeah. I think if I hadn't dissected this with like pincers, I might have been like, whatever. Because the closing is the only closing she could reach, I think.
Yes.
So you're like, oh, it makes sense for this book. And then I was like, wait a second, that's not even her conclusion.
She did. She co-opted a black woman's conclusion.
Yeah, which, finally intersectionality comes in.
But barely.
And it's
not even intentionally.
No, and it's the point that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And again, the point she makes at the end is like, you can't help but love what you love. The way she gets there when she's talking about Leslie Jameson and about like writing memoirs about abusive mothers and like, so Leslie Jameson, a memoirist, that's her name, I think, says like, you read so many crappy memoirs about like, my mother hit me with a brick and then the next day she hit me with a brick again. And then the next day she hit me with a brick again. And she's like, that's not interesting. What's interesting is your mother hit you with a brick and you still loved her. Mm-hmm. And Claire is like, aha, it's the same with artists. And it's like, no, you have to love your mother. You don't have to love Roman Polanski.
Right.
So it still isn't a perfect conclusion.
Yeah.
But it's a fair point that like, humans are not logical. Humans are not good necessarily.
Right.
And if something means something to you, not everyone can just cut that out and give it up because they know a criminal created the thing.
Right.
And so it's like, la da da, there is no solution, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's no formula, I think is what she says. There's no one formula. Like we could come up with our own formulas for ourselves, but there's no one formula that society is going to agree upon. Like, is this person a monster? Can we consume the art? Can we continue to give money to this person?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Which, I appreciate ending on a not closed note.
Yes.
When you start your project being like, what's the answer? And then being like, I never found one. I appreciate that. And actually I think that is a pretty feminist take. I think the patriarchal instinct is to be like, here's the answer.
Yep.
So,
and I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, I also appreciate that she does try to reference her failings in the book. I think the most powerful part is when she talks about being an alcoholic.
Agreed. And it took her 3/4 of the book to get there.
To me, it felt like she was burying it. She felt a little maybe ashamed or cowardly about it.
Yeah.
Because she spent way too long talking about, oh, I'm a mom and sometimes I have to go away to write. And that makes me a monster.
And then gives examples of male authors that she knows who like lock themselves in a room and not answer the door. And it's like, well, okay, but what's the comparison here?
The comparison is, and sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm like, this makes me mad on Tyler's behalf. This makes me mad on supportive partners' behalf. Because my husband would love to watch our child for 2 weeks, take off work to watch our child for 2 weeks so I could go on a writing retreat. And their support, or you would love to watch my child for 2 weeks so I could go on a writing retreat, right?
Yes.
Like she's totally taking out of the equation the idea of a supportive male partner for female artists. She basically is like, there aren't any.
Or a supportive community.
Or a supportive community, which again, intersectionality.
Yep.
True feminism is about community ground up resourcing.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, well, if we change the system, there will be no monstrous mothers because they have support in place to be artists while children are being cared for by the community, by the village. So it was it wasn't even a thing. And she spent so long talking about it.
She nitpicked a point that is really missing the bigger picture.
And it's such a man's point.
Yes.
Like, oh, well, what about you? You left your child for 2 weeks, you monster. And it's like, we don't need to think that way.
Yeah.
We don't need to adopt that point of view at all. I think it was much more compelling to talk about the woman who like abandoned 2 of her children and brought 1 with her. I'm like, that's interesting. In terms of like monstrousness, like those kids definitely have trauma. Okay. Or Sylvia Plath like committed suicide. That's traumatic. Does that make her a monster? I mean, I think again, the monster is her husband who was abusing her and not being a supportive partner and blah, 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 blah. But like, that's a bit more interesting to me than like any mother who is an artist is inherently monstrous.
And is going to abandon her children
in pursuit of art. It's an either or situation.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think to your point, like there's so much complexity around all of this. Like there's complexity around defining what is monstrous behavior. Yeah. Who is a monster? Like I do really like that when she talks specifically about Michael Jackson, and that's when she brings up the stain. And I think this was a really good example where once you know something about somebody, there's forever a stain on that person. But what she talks about is, well, where does the stain start for Michael in particular? Because he was abused by his father. So does the stain start with his father? And likely who abused his dad? Because we know, for the most part, this is generational trauma. These abuses and traumas are inflicted, and then it's the learned behavior that's passed on. And so I really appreciated that she said that. Like, where does the stain start for you? Like, can we have compassion for somebody who was abused and then perpetuated behavior? Not that I'm saying that's right, but can we have compassion just for like how somebody can endure this and through it all create amazing art,
life-changing art.
Yeah, and I'm not one that subscribes to all good art has to come from pain at all.
Totally.
So I don't want to go down that path.
When good art does come from pain, there's a certain kind of miracle to that, I think.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Well put.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, I think she's so close to getting to the point, which is like, these things are systemic.
Yep.
Monstrousness is systemic.
Yes.
And
for the most part.
These individual manifestations of systemic monstrosity, right? So it's like, if at any point in Michael Jackson's parentage lineage had somebody had support, intervention, love, care, could these patterns have been broken, right? Like, if there was actual systemic change.
Right.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Who knows?
We will never know.
And definitely there are people out there who just are, certainly, I think there are people who are just straight up evil.
Agreed.
For sure, on their own.
Yes. Psychopathic, sociopathic, pathological.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bad people.
Bad people.
Bad
yeah,
people.
there's a few of them in governance right now.
More than a few. Yes.
But, right? So, like, so the state, I'm like, you're so close to making the point I want you to make.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a very beautiful metaphor for it. Right?
Yeah.
And again, I think that was in conversation with a friend that she came to that conclusion.
I think they were out at a restaurant and like a Jackson 5 song came on the radio.
And the friend had used the word stained, I think. And she was like, yeah, that's the right way to put it.
Yeah.
So again, there was this collective reckoning happening in these conversations she's having with people.
Oh, I know the point I wanted to make. I think that, as you said, you know, I can't remember exactly what year she wrote this, but it was a couple of years ago at least. And so in the example of J.K. Rowling, she has continued to get more and more and more awful and influence more and more awful things. But I think even the fact that you and I are sitting here talking about this, like, yes, she wrote the book, but the fact that you and I wanted to have a conversation and we can look at it from a modern perspective, that there are people breaking those generational curses and there are people working to bring light to all of this. Okay, 2023. So it was only 2.5 years ago that she wrote this.
I fully thought this was like 2010, 2015.
I would have thought like more 5 or 6 years ago. But okay. So I must have read this actually for the first time pretty soon after it came out.
Yeah. Sorry, I did not mean to
No, that's okay. So Sarah just looked up the date of publishing. It was April 25th, 2023. We're recording this in September of 2025. So 2.5 years ago. So I think that, you know, this is something that I talk a lot about with my friends and some people in my family, that just, we are the ones who are aware breaking these cycles, and not necessarily always trauma, but cycles that have been just perpetuated because that's just the way it is. And you can't use the argument that's just the way it is or that's just the way it was anymore.
Yeah.
And not if you're paying attention.
Agreed.
Not if you're, you know, coming from any commitment to evolving during this lifetime. Like, it's just not acceptable, to your point of her normalizing, like, oh, well, men just fucked young kids back then. And it was
back
normal.
then.
And like, not that it wasn't not a thing, like, but we need to say, like, it wasn't normal then. It isn't normal now.
It wasn't normal in ancient Rome, you guys. Like, it's never been okay.
Yes.
To take a 13-year-old against her will.
Yes.
Like, and what also I found particularly heinous, and I say this as a person with personal experience surviving assault. So she points out, she's like, Polanski's, like, she forgave Polanski. And I'm like, you don't need to include that. First of all, we don't know how she actually feels, even if she's on record saying that. Who knows? Yeah. And then also, it's totally not relevant.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that happens after the fact, individual to individual, whatever she needed to do to move on with her life, to make peace with her trauma, to heal. I don't know. But, like, it's so inappropriate to include that after the fact thing that happened as an individual with this poor woman when we're talking about the original source crime.
Yes. There's no, you're not in this situation at all.
No,
There's no you needing to forgive anything.
no,
She's not involved.
Yeah, it's just again. It was like she clearly is still struggling, even after writing this book, with how to engage with Polanski's art.
Yes.
As a huge Polanski fan,
Yes.
and you can see that from page 1.
Yes.
And that's tough. It's pretty easy for me. I don't like horror. I'm like, I'll never watch those movies. Success.
Yeah. I thought Rosemary's Baby was an excellent movie. I'll never watch it again.
Yeah, it's like
Because I watched it when I was younger and I had no idea who. I mean, I was in high school.
Okay,
But I mean, I was
imagining you like
young.
watched it. And you're like, what's this movie about?
No, I think it must have been like a friend or a boyfriend at the time was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is like a classic movie. And it is an
Yeah.
excellent film.
And she was talking about like the film itself. It's like, oh, it is so interesting how feminist that premise is.
Yes.
And yeah, it's like misogynists can absolutely make feminist art accidentally. Or
Yes.
intentionally. But like, yeah, that's for sure. You can absolutely, if you're super interested in that movie, I think like really appreciate that part of it.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then the fact that Mia Farrow stars in it. I mean, there's a lot of layers
All
to
the
that movie.
connections, that poor woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are there any more points you want to make about your reactions to her writing, or because I don't want to close that door,
Yeah,
but
I'm
I do want to talk about like where we've landed on the premise for
On the
ourselves.
premise. Yeah. I'm trying to think about her. I just, I think I have friends, like I was in an MFA program. I know I mentioned that a lot, but most of my friends are writers,
Mhm.
and they are very seriously committed to their craft. And one of my closest friends, Jill, is an essayist and a memoirist. And like, so I'm reading very good memoirs from my friends a lot, and seeing their works and seeing their drafts and seeing how hard they work. And I know that they would be critiquing you can tell that she's a journalist and not an essayist or memoirist, because it's like you really need to be on top of yourself and have like a multi-level awareness and observation of your reactions to things if you're going to tackle a topic like this.
Mhm.
If you're purely going to speak about your own life experience, and it's like, well, of course it's just you and this tunnel of you and your experience and your thoughts. But when you're speaking on behalf of society, you gotta then be bigger than yourself.
Mhm.
And so I just struggled with that a lot. Because it's like, the topic is so important. And a lot of what the points she does make, I'm like, those are good points, but they're buried in unfortunate surroundings.
Yeah.
And
That's reinforcing
yeah.
the things we don't want to be reinforcing.
I can see another book being written in the future in conversation with this one. That is maybe the book I want to be reading. And I think it's being written by somebody different. Like, yeah, perhaps a bit younger, perhaps a bit more, again, intersexually minded.
Maybe not a white woman.
Maybe not a white woman.
Yeah.
I just think, we acknowledge all the time, we're like, we are not the people to be speaking about, we can inform ourselves as much as possible, of course, but like, we are inherently going to be limited by, our points of view.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can move on, because I definitely think the J.K. Rowling is so pertinent.
Yeah, but I did want to make space because for months, well, I mean, part of it is the months of us just getting delayed in recording this once you finished it. But I think that making space for everybody's perspectives and interactions with literature is what we're here for.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, I just can't help, I'm just like a critical little bitch.
I have learned so much and derived great value from your criticisms.
Okay, good. Yes, I think, I'm shocked this was 2023. Because I felt like it was really,
that's post Me Too.
yeah,
Which maybe might have, I think she actually
been
kind of
part of
mentions
it.
like that is probably a big catalyst. Like,
Yeah.
okay, now that and I do feel like it exponentially became faster in hearing about shitty people, shitty dudes for the most part.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Well,
no, I'll say shitty people because we're going to talk about J.K. Rowling.
Yeah. Is she even a human at this point? No. Okay. She is, I guess, unfortunately. One more thing I forgot to say.
Yeah, please.
It's not a book. There's a Brandy Carlisle song called The Mother. And every time I listen to it, I cry. I mean, first of all, Brandy Carlisle is maybe one of my favorite artists of all time. And it's about her, like, being a mother to her daughter Evangeline when she was born. And she talks about like all my friends are on the road, like pursuing their art. And she basically, in the song, concludes like there is no art without Evangeline. And it's stunningly beautiful. And if anybody is interested in what I think is the appropriate reaction to being an artist and a mother, you should go listen to that song. Okay.
Okay. I'll have to listen to it. I don't think I've heard it. I like Brandy
so
Carlisle, but I'm
beautiful.
not, I haven't listened to her albums. I know like her,
the
her
entire
popular
library.
songs.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sing it to Leo.
Aww.
I'm the mother of Leo.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Okay, so I think two good examples to talk about here are Brad Pitt, because we did recently see a movie that he was in, and I struggled with that decision, and I talked to Tyler about it a lot, and then J.K. Rowling. So those are not two perfect examples, but I think there are two that have been on my mind a lot in regards to our discussion. So J.K. Rowling, I think, is a much easier template to follow. She literally has said she has created a fund for anti-trans works, like legal and otherwise, basically created a fund to destroy the rights and lives of trans people. And that she has said that every Harry Potter thing you purchase, the money is partially going to that.
And legislation was just passed in the UK in support of her efforts. So it's not just...
It's not an empty threat.
It's not an empty threat. It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't know enough about the law, but what I know is that it basically took away the rights of trans people.
Yeah. Which
so
is
moving backwards in a very, very bad way.
In a place I think that they're worse. The state is worse actually in the UK than it is here for trans people. That's saying something. And there's a new Harry Potter TV show coming out that she is an executive producer on and has been highly involved in. Part of the reasoning she said that she wanted to do the show is to recast the main trio because the three actors came out against her anti-trans rhetoric. Yeah. So her anti-trans rhetoric is baked into the existence of Harry Potter at this point.
Yes.
On her own volition. If she had done a better job of being, and I say this like better job meaning more successfully evil, of hiding her opinions and doing things in the black market backhanded way that many billionaires do.
Yep.
Of just funding stuff and doing it anonymously through whatever channels and just like continue to be like, Harry Potter, yeah, inclusion, like my series is about like good stuff. And then like secretly been a horrible person. Like, I think we would all been like, yeah, Harry Potter, love it. Let's go see the TV show.
Yeah.
But she has been very open about like, no. I always been this way. Just like, and if you buy this stuff, you support me, basically.
Yeah.
And my sister was like texting me and she's like, what do I do? Like, I really want my daughter to read Harry Potter with me. And I was like, I'm going to struggle with that too. There's definitely people out there who are like, just stop. There's other good books out there. First of all, that's true. There's other great, like
there's
the
bajillions of good books.
Not the Book of Dust. The Book of Dust is the prequel for the Golden Compass series. I forget the name of the series, but like that is phenomenal. Like, yeah, you could just read your kid that and be like, this is the best, right? I already own all of Harry Potter. I purchased it long ago. I have a signed copy that I maybe need to sell before nobody wants it. But because I met her and it was we talked about this. It was like very foundational to me.
Yes.
It was a very important memory. And I can now look back and be like, well, I didn't know she was terrible then. And if I had known, I would not have been so excited to meet her.
Yeah. And how old were you?
I was 10.
Also, you were 10.
But
so,
if I had known, even as a 10-year-old,
of course,
you know?
But how many 10-year-olds are going to fully comprehend? I mean, not fully. Hopefully, the 10-year-olds of today not to hate on specific groups of people just because they are who they are.
Leo had come across a series and like in real time, we found out that the author was like actively using money towards like oppressing groups of people. I would have been like, Leo, guy, no, we gotta stop reading this.
Yeah, and let's talk about it.
Yeah. So it's like, on the one hand, like, yeah, we would like to read these to our baby. I still think they're pretty good books, even though people have pointed out, like, there's definitely, like, racism, like, the Cho Chang of it all, the goblins of it all, like, there's problems.
Yeah.
You know, but so a lot of people on the internet are like, well, if you've already purchased a thing, no more money is going towards her. So then you can have that decision on your own, whether or not you want to.
So the difference between money versus attention being spent.
Yes, because in this case specifically, the money is directly going towards committing more crimes or oppressing more people, causing more harm.
Yeah.
Right? Versus in like a situation where the person is dead or like old or like they don't have a fund that's anti-trans whatever stuff or whatever, like pro raping kids fund. I don't know, like
sorry.
the money
uncomfortable after.
I guess the Epstein, you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
right?
I do.
Like, that's basically what that is. Where does the money go? If you think about it purely in terms of capitalism, our only sense of power is where we put our money, even though really that's not very much power at all.
Yeah. I have a question. I think I heard this, but never verified it.
Yeah.
The royalties from R. Kelly's music, is that going to a victim, like a survivor's fund?
Oh my gosh, I don't know, but I hope
Because
so.
man, oh man, they play R. Kelly songs a lot on the radio.
Yeah.
And I thought I saw that somewhere. I'm going to have to verify this
got it.
afterwards because this is something that's like, let's like flip it on its
That
head.
I'm into.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll have to look. Might just be a rumor. Again, I have not verified this, but I think I heard that somewhere and I was like, oh, okay. Well, what do you do with that then? How do you disseminate that information if this is true?
Yeah.
That consuming, like if you were already a fan of his, which in junior high I was.
Sure. Oh my God, like ignition.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Listen to that song 1,000 times.
Yeah. School dance.
Yes. You know, then does that make it okay to consume this because the money's not going to him? If you were previously, like just the complexity of all this is like how, that's why I do think, as imperfect as the book was, her conclusion of you have to figure out for yourself how to, case by case even, not even like, I'm not going to feel the same way about Bill Cosby because I did not connect with that art and he's just atrocious and I will never, I mean, they've pulled the Cosby Show off the air for years. So like, that's not even a hard thing, but, you know, Neil Gaiman for me is a recent one that I'm heartbroken over and
devastating.
And reading essays and articles about how the breadcrumbs have been there all along. And the complicity and the allowance that some of these people had because they were powerful men, how people just turned a blind eye.
Yeah. And that's so
and women, if, you know, 100% gaslit after these encounters, like, oh, maybe it's me. That's the thing that just breaks my heart. Like, no, honey, it's not you. It was him.
Well, okay, I'm having like 4,000 different thoughts.
Okay.
I want to comment on all of them. Let me try to remember them. Okay. One aspect, I think, when we take away the capitalism of it all, if the crime is in the art, then I'm like, maybe we don't want to consume that art. Like Woody Allen's movies where he's sleeping with young women.
Yes.
I'm like, why wouldn't we need to continue watching those and continue to tell ourselves societally that that's okay by being programmed by this media, right? Okay, those movies aren't good how-abouts because the premise of them is that old man fucks teenager. And she's great. And old women suck. Let me go rape my child. Like, okay. I hate Woody Allen. Spoiler alert.
Not a fan.
Neil Gaiman's works, conversely, again, as a survivor of assault, that's a really huge part of the Sandman books. It's like, and it's hard to read. Trigger warning for those comics, like those graphic novels. Like, there's basically assault on the page. Yeah. But so much of it is about the like systemic, long term, like how trauma just spills out, and then to find out that the person who wrote this stuff that's like pretty important to the survivor community, and I don't mean to speak for everybody, is himself an abuser. A serial abuser?
Because it's so nuanced, because it's a full look at it. It's not just the view of the predator.
No, it's a really unflinching look where you're like assume that he had been assaulted, and maybe he had been, I'm not sure, but it's like, oh, devastating, you know? So then it's like, now I can no longer take that as a victim's point of view art. Now, if I reread it, I think I'd probably be pretty horrified because I would be seeing the crime in it instead, you know? And so I think for me, when I think about like individually interacting with this stuff, it's like, yeah, I do care about my like paltry money power, my like minuscule power as a consumer of things in capitalism. So like with the Brad Pitt of it all, for example, like I fully believe Angelina Jolie, I fully believe their children. Yeah. I fully believe that he was
100%
abusing them. Yes. Whether or not that is fully to blame for the alcoholism as he claims, whatever. I don't really care. I think, you know, if you abuse your kids, you suck. And yet we went to see a movie that he was in. I think that he was a producer on it.
Yes.
So he made
probably making a lot of money.
He made a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's getting, to me, I was like, is he going to get more powerful because of this movie? Like, because to me, I'm like, are we helping a person become more powerful? Therefore, are they going to be able to hurt more people?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I don't know.
Well, okay. So actually, this is a good thing to pause on because, yes, Sarah and I went to see the Formula One movie. I'm a huge Formula One fan. Eventually, we will read.
I am now too.
Yay! I wasn't going to speak for you. Eventually, we'll read a Racer Romance, guys. We'll get there. Don't worry. So yeah, we went with a group of people to see the F1 movie, and so I'll back up a little bit. 2 points I want to make. One, absolutely believe Angelina, believe their kids. I think that because the things I have read where he has owned up to bad behavior, alcoholism, needing therapy, perpetuating awful things, I think that this is, again, speaking for myself, because I can recognize the humanity in being a public figure and saying, I fucked up. These are the steps I've taken to do better. I don't know if that's going to help his kids or her heal from it. But as a consumer of his work, I do think he's a brilliant actor. I do watch a lot of his stuff. To me, this case is a little different because I think there's a difference between people saying like, oh, that never happened. Oh, I'm going to keep doing this. Clearly, there was a big history of things. Personally, I'm not putting Brad Pitt in the same category as Neil Gaiman or Bill Cosby.
Yeah. I think there are shades of things. Yeah. That's so interesting because, like, for me, I'm like, oh, he's not in any way reckoned. Like, he has not any time said, like, yeah, I did hit my kids. Or, like, he's still in full denial. So I'm like, to me, it's not enough. Like, it's not enough for me.
Oh, see, I've read he like went to rehab and dealt with it.
He claims like he's an alcoholic and that like his alcoholism like hurt people, but he like claims he like never like physically hurt them.
Yeah. Well, but again, so like, I believe them.
Yeah.
But also we weren't there.
Exactly. But like that to me is I'm like, maybe why I had a different experience. So I struggled more with the decision to go to the movie.
Yeah.
You know,
it's interesting. You didn't say anything about it.
I didn't know. It was me and Tyler purely because Tyler and I are into F1 now.
Yeah.
And I love you. And I wanted to meet more of your friends. And I'm like, my love of my community and my friends and like this thing that we share.
Yeah.
In this instance, to me, trumped my ethical concerns.
Okay.
Is that me acting morally or ethically? I'm not sure. I am a person who is very concerned with acting ethically and morally. I'm a vegan, like, and not, I'm not trying to be holler than. I don't care if you eat meat, guys.
Don't come after Sarah.
For me,
yeah, I
try to think about how do I reduce harm.
Right. And you're very vocal about that.
Yeah.
When you tell people, like new people, I've just seen you do it, like why you're vegan or I've included you in dinners where you were the only vegan person. So I'm crafting a dinner lovingly that, you can enjoy and everything.
One. Yeah.
But you always say that like, this is me. I'm not proselytizing. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. And you don't. You're just like, hey, I'm vegan. I'm Sarah. Hey, I'm Sarah. I'm vegan. Hi, Sarah.
Yeah. So I personally just don't want to participate in the various systems that create, our animal consuming culture.
Yeah.
I don't think it's appropriate, to tell somebody else what their ethics should be. Again, unless they're a person in power who's like deciding for everybody else.
Yeah. One more point I want to make about Brad Pitt. So I was recently in conversation. I won't get into the details of the what of my past, but we were talking about somebody who had perpetuated behavior that was not great. I'll just say that.
Like a person, personally?
A person I know personally.
So not like a public figure.
Correct.
Okay.
A person I know personally. And so I was talking to another friend about this, and he had very strong feelings that behavior was bad. Morally gray. This person has since made amends to make up for that. The behavior that she was perpetuating, I have done in my past. The same exact thing. And so I was saying to this friend who still had really strong feelings about it, that I was like, hey, I hear you and I respect your opinion, but I'm going to share with you right now, I don't really need to keep talking about this because I've been this person in a different situation 16 years ago in my life. So I'm coming at it from, we're all human. We're, sometimes we're in our mental health is struggling. Sometimes we're acting out in certain ways. Sometimes just the circumstance of our life means we're human and we hurt people and we do bad things that I can look back on now and say like, wow, I was really making some bad decisions. I hurt people.
Yeah. We're all the villain in somebody else's story, probably.
In this case, yes, I was. And so I also think that you and I can look at situations from the humanity of it all as well. And so I think in this case of Brad Pitt, I'm like, you know what? I've never hit a child. I've never, that's not what I did.
Yeah.
But I can also look at it and say like, okay, if I can see that somebody is trying to do better, like I have compassion for that.
Yeah.
There are some things obviously that are very cut and dry.
Yeah.
Do I think somebody who is trying to improve and has learned and is trying to evolve, shouldn't get a chance? Not always. Sometimes I'm not going to care. So like I
For sure. I think we need to make way more room for rehabilitation in our culture. Like, and
agreed.
the prison system is like absolutely messed up and should be. But like, so I think maybe partially it's because we are so culturally inclined towards black and white thinking, where people in power get away with crimes, right? But then like for the rest of us, it's, if you're bad forever, and we'll
cancel
lock you away.
culture.
Cancel culture, right? Yeah.
And that could be a whole other conversation, just like societally.
Like an internalized police state, essentially. Yeah. We're all being judgy little bees and like saying you're bad, you're good, you're bad, you're good.
Yeah.
Right. And it's complicated. We know so much about one another. Like, again, like the way the world is now, like it's so different than, the days of when Picasso was around or whatever. But speaking of that, okay, I'm so glad I didn't forget to mention this. Please, if you have not already seen it, trigger warning, strong trigger warning, content warning for the special itself, but visit the special called Nanette. By Hannah Gadsby.
So good.
They spend a lot of it talking about Picasso and themselves as an art history major or in studying art history, and everyone being like, but Cubism, and they keep bringing it like, but Cubism, and like they're like, there are other artists, like it's the ending of the special, like it is never ever like a 17-year-old girl is never ever ever in her prime, and it's just like the way I wept, I had never felt so. I'm like, that's what I've been trying to say for years.
That is a masterful. It is
one of the greatest things ever created, and I think it's like, I'm like, man, I wish there was more of that in this book. You know what I mean? Where you can take a stand from an emotional point of view, they have personal experience with abusers.
Yes.
In so many regards, that they're an incredible human, and like this, what's coming from a personally informed emotional response to make a sweeping claim about a system, and feeling like, yeah, why can't I, right? And it's like so good. Anyways,
it's so good, and I think what's masterful about it is you don't know that's where she's going.
No,
they are going. They are going.
It's you're watching a comedy special. And you're like, is this
which
funny?
Is the brilliance of good comedy.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like, is it a one-woman show? One person show? Gosh, yeah.
It's okay. We correct ourselves when we know better. Because we are perfectly imperfect humans.
Anyway, Tyler and I are huge fans of the work. We go see them every time they're in San Francisco. And the work has definitely evolved from there. That was me getting off topic, talking about Picasso.
No, but talking about Picasso.
We know, because like we are in real time. It's obviously not real time, but we're like, so maybe in 10 years, Brad Pitt isn't going to be like, it was my alcoholism. He's going to be like, hey, I have no relationship with my kids, and I'm looking back on things and I'm realizing like, wow, that's because of me and my actions, and I did hurt them, and I'm going to commit my life to like making amends with them, or just like speaking out for abusers everywhere, or like funding legal defense funds for kids who are abused, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and I'd be like, yeah, all right, you know what, Brad Pitt, good for you. Character arc. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because we're seeing things so like to the minute,
and also very curated. So like, apparently I've seen things that you haven't seen.
Yeah.
And also he's a public figure. He's going to keep some things private, which is his right.
Totally. So it's so
again, the relationship with consumerism and our attention and our money, like it's a very nuanced, complex thing that we as consumers have created.
Yeah. And then there's the whole layer of like Shirley Jackson's The Lottery of it all. Have you ever read that short story? Mm-hmm. Oh, you'd love it. It's a very like, getting a bachelor's in English, you read this short story.
Okay.
And it's essentially, the premise is like, there's a society, there's a ritual happening. You're like, what is this ritual? What is this society where people are randomly drawing stones, and one person draws a black stone or a white stone, I can't remember, and then basically everybody else stones them to death. And it's like implied that it's like they believe this ritual is done for like superstitious purposes regarding crops or whatever. But really what they're doing is they're finding an excuse because the woman who draws a stone is like, everybody hates her. And so it's like suspect that she's the one who draws the stone, and then they're all allowed to kill her. And I did not get a very good grade. I remember I did not get a good grade. Obviously, I remember that. On my essay about this, and my teacher was like, I really think you're like not getting everything here. And I've thought about what I've missed to this day. I think about what I missed when I was reading that. But I think when we think about, like, we're so quick to jump on certain people for certain crimes, and just, like, inherent, like, we're all like fucking monkeys, you know what I mean? Like, we're all just like, yeah, beat each other with sticks, like,
And it
yeah,
sounds like when you're given the permission to be violent.
yes,
Very Lord of the Flies.
yes, and, like, that's kind of happening.
Yeah. Because it is up to the minute. We're getting information in a way that is, to me, not healthy.
Yeah, yeah. So
But what
it's
do we
like,
do with that?
and in which cases is it like, no, this person is like, stop, don't watch the new Harry Potter show. You know what I mean? Like, or if you are, it does say to me that you don't care about trans people. Kind of. Like, to me, it's way more cut and dry in that case, because you know that your streaming dollars are going to this fund.
Yeah.
Right? And again, like, you feel free to make that decision on your own, obviously. But, like, that is the conclusion I'm going to draw personally.
Because
right?
we come from our personal perspective.
Yeah.
And we are emotional.
Yeah.
And we get to do that because we're human.
And I know and love so many trans people. So I'm like, you're hurting my friends.
Yeah.
You're hurting my family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's not acceptable.
Yeah. I will stand for them.
Yes.
You know?
Of course.
So how could you not get fired up?
Yeah. I do think, because I'm always, playing the other coin, I think some people just reserve the right to not care as much.
That's fair. I guess, like, again, like, yeah, people.
I don't think that's acceptable in September 2025.
No, but it's a fair point to make. Like that, like, it's just like when I tell people, like, I'm a vegan for, like, they're like, oh, is it because the animals? I'm like, there's all sorts of reasons, like, yeah, and the environment and the labor of humans, and, like, it's a broad reaching ethical consideration. And they're like, well, I guess you think I'm not ethical. And it's like, that's not really.
That's a leap.
Yeah, like, that's not really, no.
Yeah.
But, like, if that's your conclusion, like, maybe you feel that way.
Or maybe you should learn to take the time to learn about something before you jump to a conclusion.
Yeah. But it's always so interesting if somebody gets very defensive. And it's like, maybe you do believe that about yourself?
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think anytime we're presented with an opportunity to consider what do I think is the right thing here, whether or not we say yes or no, it is going to reveal something.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Which is, thank you, Claire, for this discussion.
Yes.
I recommended this book because we got there, but I wanted to have the discussion with you of, like, how do we figure this out? And I think, I can't remember who, but we may have mentioned this on the podcast. I don't remember, but, there was an audiobook narrator that ended up being really awful, but he had narrated a whole bunch of audiobooks. And I think some sexy audiobooks. And when we were like, well, now I can't listen to this. But that also affects the author.
Yeah.
Like when somebody's performing your art.
Oh my God, I would be so mad if I was the author. And I was like, you stained my art.
It's a stain.
It's not even my own stain. Like, you stained it.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks. Yeah. Collaboration, man, though. When you collaborate, you invite in others.
Yeah. Which I guess, shitty people come from all walks of life. They're not all famous. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Just are looking at the famous ones
it
because
speaks to the prevalence of audiobooks these days, that something like that would even come out, that a person would be notable as an audiobook narrator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, we would love to hear your thoughts on this. If you have strong thoughts and feelings, if you've read this book, critiques or otherwise, or praise, please, like, we would love to have a conversation with you all as listeners about this.
Because it's going to keep coming up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sarah and I have no plans to stop this podcast anytime soon. So that means you're going to be with us for a while. And I think that, as we talked about, just the up to the minute information, they can't hide anymore. I don't think.
It's getting harder.
It's getting harder. That's for sure.
But I think it is still, if you have a certain amount of money and influence, I think things can maybe stay buried for longer for you, but who knows? Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to pivot to something much more.
Sarah's real excited. I started the book yesterday.
She started Shadow in the Ember.
We're finally getting to the Blood and Ash prequel series.
Flesh and Fire series.
Yes, which these titles still
they all are very confusing. I mean, the last one in the Flesh and Fire series is called Born of Blood and Ash. So.
Armin Trout killing us.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Again, speaking of, like, editing, it's like, man, if there's an editor, just be like, could we perhaps create some clarity in the
something? Yeah.
But so far you are enjoying
I
it.
am. I'm only a few chapters in, and I'm really sad we didn't record it. But before we hit record, I told Sarah I started the book, and she literally growled. It was like,
I was like, yeah! Because as you all know, I am too invested in the fact that Jenny better enjoy it.
So I've been instructed to lie, which I wouldn't do.
lie to
But
me.
luckily I am liking it.
Because fortunately, yeah. I love them so much.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to reread. It's gonna be like my fourth reading.
So that's where we're headed. We have four books
Yeah.
in the series, right?
4 books in the series. It's complete. And then, the new Blood and Ash book is coming out on the 23rd.
Yeah.
So we are definitely going to be delayed in getting to that because I would like us to get through the prequels first. I'm going to try my hardest not to read. I might read it.
No, don't read it. You have to wait. You have to wait. No, you can't. Or you
I
have
just
to
don't want
wait.
to get spoiled. Like,
Yeah, see, I'm off Instagram now.
So
Sarah
it's the Reddits.
runs
It's the
our
Reddits.
Instagram account. So if you talk to anybody on there, it's Sarah.
Yeah, because I could be spoiling and stuff for sure, but I also could be spoiling Reddit. People are pretty good about labeling spoilers in Reddit, but it's not a perfect system.
Fine. Because I think it's going to take us probably 2 months to get through these
Probably
books. We're recording every
at
2 weeks.
least, yeah. And we have an author interview coming up, which we're really excited about. We would love to do more of those authors of the world. Reach out to us.
Yeah.
The
The website with our new roadmap will be updated soon.
Yeah.
Probably by the time this episode is edited and released. So that's fun. And yeah, we have plans this fall.
we have plans.
We have plans and we're excited.
Yeah, we're very sorry for the delay. We appreciate you sticking with us. And we're back.
Yay.
Yay.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Spread Your Wings fan podcast.
We would love to hear what you think about our topics today. Be sure to connect with us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
You can find us on both with the handle @SpreadYourWingsFan. And all of the links and more fun stuff are found on our website, spreadyourwingsfan.com.
And if you have a book or author you want us to check out, send us an email at hello@spreadyourwingsfan.com to tell us.
We hope you tune into the next episode.